Oh, here.
All right, we are live.
Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. We're here for the Orange Township Regular Board of Trustees meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Ms. Kraft, please call roll.
Mr. Grumbles.
Here.
Ms. Knapp.
Here.
Mrs. Faust.
Here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'm going to move some things on the agenda. I'm going to invite the Delaware County Engineer's Office to come up. They're going to do a presentation, and then after that, we're going to handle some gas aggregation issues, and then after that, we'll have public comment. I don't know if Rob's coming or not, or
He's on his way. Thank you, trustees. Could we, if you prefer, you can go ahead with the aggregation, and then when Rob gets here, he's tied up in traffic.
that's
All
fine.
right, thank you.
Perfect. Yep. Please state your name and date of birth for the record.
Scott Belcastro from Trayvell here to speak about the aggregation program. Thank you for working me in today. The energy markets have been absolutely crazy. I'll just get a quick review on the electric today, or pardon me, everybody. Yesterday was the electric auctions that take place twice a year once now in November, then in the spring again to set the rates for next year starting in June. We've been watching these very, very closely, and based on what happened yesterday, we anticipate the rates to be over $100 a megawatt hour. What does that mean for you? It means that we expect next June the utilities default price of electric to be extremely high, like over 9-10 cents a kilowatt hour. In the meantime, we're waiting for opportunities to buy in the market. We're trying to work on that now. On the gas markets, they've come down quite a bit, which is why I'm here this evening. We're getting lots and lots of calls on behalf of your residents to say, what are we doing? Winter's coming. What can we do here? So we couldn't do anything. And in fact, if you look back to September here in this graph, trustees, it's right here. It's at 90. This is the raw price of natural gas. It traded at 91 cents per CCF. I'm going to read it out loud for everybody. At October 67, November, it usually settles somewhere on the third, fourth day from the end of the month, and it just happened to settle perfectly at 50 cents. Right after that, it shot way up again. In fact, it shot up to 63 cents, and today it's at 61 cents. So when I called upon the township, I thought, boy, I'll tell you, we have an opportunity here. If you trustees could pull out this second piece of paper, this one right here, thank you. And you'll see that on the 23rd, I think it might be the 22nd, it hit about 48 cents per CCF, and that was important to my call. We're watching this for everybody, and we're trying to get to everyone quickly, and we'll address that. We have a way to address that issue later with the trustees. We'll talk about to help move things along so we can be opportunistic and buy in the market. That's really what we need to be able to do. As you can see, today we're at 61, as I mentioned, but it did pop way back up. Look, at the end of the day, what we created was some language on the resolution that said if we can get a rate up to X cents per CCF, anywhere to that number or below, we'll go ahead and lock this thing in. We're hoping that it comes back down. Yesterday it was at 58 cents. And so, it's moving. These kind of sways are just not normal. Look at how big they are. I mean, they're massive. So what we're looking to do is get an approval today. I think Michelle, did you have the resolution here today?
I do, yes.
Okay. Can I borrow your copy of it if you don't mind, or is it somewhere? It's no worries.
This is the one I lost in the sign, but.
Yeah, excuse me. If you look at the resolution that's been prepared on page 2, if in the opinion of the administrator an acceptable fixed rate not to exceed 749 is negotiated and such rate will remain until the termination of the MSA. And that what we're looking at is I wanted to keep this program short. So 12 months under 749 gives us an opportunity to go out next, in the spring or in the summer and get a potentially a much lower rate. We'll do that, but this will at least protect us from this winter. As you all know, this is a seasonal product. We won't use too much of it during the summer, but I think it's a good opportunity right now to kind of take some of the risk off the table.
749 is the, so 0.749. If I'm looking at the table. So the table that you gave us, it says 2022, go down to November, it's 0.50594.
Yes, sir. So it's in addition to that, that's just for the month of November. Then you add on to that the utilities, call it an adder.
Okay.
So this is the raw price of gas. Take your number and put underneath that 0.165. And when you add those two numbers together, which would be that's the 67 cents for November. And if you can do that for every single month going back, you'll see. I mean, we were over $1.10 per CCF at one point. It's incredible. That's when you guys probably got your phone calls, people hitting the panic button this summer, going, "What are we going to do?" So that's really what we were faced with.
So right now we're sitting at
67 cents for
Okay.
today.
I'm sorry, how much?
67
And you want
cents.
to lock us in at 75?
I'm not going to do anything yet. We're going to wait and see if the market comes back down. We don't have the ability because the market has moved up again. This is the volatility I'm talking about. If we can get it back under 75, ideally back in the low 70s.
So it's not at 67 anymore.
No, that was only for the month. It was
So
literally
where
for
is
a.
it?
It was
Where
literally
was it
for a
today?
day
You said
that
it
we
went to
had that
0.58.
rate. I
Right.
mean, it's gone.
They did change the 0.58. You said yesterday or something?
Yeah. So when we had it, when it hit down, the rates go up every single day. The utility, this settlement right here happens every month, roughly the same time at the third or fourth day from the end of the month. They literally just got lucky and nailed it that day. I mean, we have a process here that we can't just sign off, which is what I'd like to talk to you about later on. But
Okay.
it has since gone up. Today, it's that number of 50 cents. Trustee Grumbles is now trading at 61 cents right now on the market.
That was today's.
That's
and you're
today's.
asking us to lock in at 75 cents?
But that's 61 plus the adder
Plus the
of the
adder.
utility 0.165. So now you're way back up over it.
77 and a half. So
Yeah.
he's wanting to go lower.
Yes. Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Good.
So maximum, so what's your plan then?
So the plan is this resolution. I'm asking for a motion to say if we can get at 75 cents or below, we'll go ahead and move forward with locking in the rate for the winter for the next 12 months.
Okay, because when it went up to a few months ago, went up to like $1.03
Yeah.
or whatever. I locked in with a provider at like 72 cents.
Yeah.
But I can get out of the contract. But I'm looking at the apples to apples now, and I'm seeing 74 cents is the cheapest currently.
Yeah,
If you
we
wanna
can
lock
go a much longer term, okay, and get you a much better deal, or a better deal, I should say. But I don't feel that locking into a long-term deal right now makes any sense.
No,
I think
in. Right? No, it doesn't.
it just doesn't make any sense.
If it goes significantly lower, say in May, could we relock?
We can get another, what I'm hoping to do is get a program behind that ready to go for the
Basically,
next winter.
Longer,
The
like longer
For the next
term.
winter,
If the Republicans take over and start fixing the problems, then we'll get back to where you see 2020 and 2021.
So it's a guarantee.
Yes, so
Okay.
It's a reality.
it's
It's political.
So, and this would be good for 1 year from the
1 year.
time. So we'd be obligated. So we could start negotiating in May, but it would still be.
Yeah, we can renegotiate in May, start thinking about that. But I wanted to let everybody know that's listening, there is no early termination fee. So if things were to fall down or the market just, fell out from under it, you can always get out and go do your own thing.
You can
for
jump
free.
on
Free
or
of
jump
charge.
off
Yeah,
at any point.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll send out emails and postcards to let everyone know how to get out.
Yeah.
You guys send us out, right?
We probably won't do that, but we'll probably let people have the
The township
information,
will.
right?
Township will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it sounds it's, but
we serve the residents.
we would not be able to lock in a new rate for an entire year. Is that correct? Or can we do it sooner?
This will be locked in for 12 months, and if in May, say it goes down to like 4 cents, 40 cents, we would then put the next program to start next January 1, which is fine. In the Trustee Knapp, in the summer, as you know, we're not going to use gas, so it's not really as relevant how high the
But
price
the
is.
customers could get out of the aggregation program if they
And
wanted
default
to.
back to the utility
Yeah.
even.
Okay.
Yeah, or to go with another provider.
Or another provider.
Which is what I
Absolutely.
did.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And when will you know what the new rate is? You're just going to check it for the next.
Yeah, so I only have, because you guys know I have to be held accountable to the PUCO processes, I have to file the letter, wait 10 days, send letters out 21 days to your residents. So the 14th end of day is really the last day I can do anything. If these rates don't fall before then my recommendation then is we can't start by January. And if we can't start by January, I think we just wait till the spring. I really do.
Will we have to have another meeting on this, or do you just you're
No,
going to
no.
lock it on the contract?
Your approval here today, your resolution allows us to move forward, and then what the resolution says is that I will call your administrator, and she will sign the agreement.
Okay.
Gives her the
Yeah.
authority.
Any
Okay, good.
any other questions?
Hopefully it'll be below 75.
Yeah, I hope so.
We'll get that approved today.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Yep. We'll do that later. I don't want to renumber the entire template.
Yeah, I'll email this to you tomorrow.
Go ahead and invite up Delaware County Assistant Chief Executive Engineer Rob Riley.
It's a lot fancier than it really is.
The longer the time goes.
Oh, it's not. It's just Chief. Sorry, Chief. And thank you for coming back. We had appreciated your presentation previously, so get an update. And
Certainly.
I know the residents appreciate it, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation to speak with you tonight. There's a whole lot going on in Delaware County, as you know. I want to make sure I introduce Doug Riedel. Doug is our township engineer. Doug does a good job of handling your township and 17 other townships.
Yes, he does.
As his clients. So we'd be kind of lost without Doug, and I wanted to thank him for being here tonight. And of course, you can contact Doug at any time. If you don't get a hold of Doug, certainly contact me as well.
I'd like to thank Doug as well. I think on behalf of the whole board, I know you're always accessible and have done a lot to advocate for Orange and assist me with on-site meetings with the engineer's office and other townships. And I know Trustee Faust has met with you and worked with the engineers in similar capacity that I have in the past. And I know Trustee Knapp has a deeper relationship, having served for so long. So we're grateful for your efforts.
Yeah, very accessible. I appreciate it. You guys are always there when you have questions.
So I have a presentation. I'd do my very best to run through this in about 15 or 20 minutes. Please do stop me if you have any questions or comments along the way. Otherwise, I'll just kind of run through it. So do I have a clicker, or shall I?
I'll have to do it.
Okay, go ahead. So, uh-oh.
Well,
Now we're in trouble. Page down. Okay, so I know you have it in front of you, but basically, population-wise, we're at about 226,000 residents right now. That's a long way from where Delaware County was when I started. I started in 1997. We were at about 100,000. So population has more than doubled since I've been around, and certainly traffic has gone with it. You can get that bottom chart. You can get an idea of where we are on new construction building permits. Last year we were at about 1,700 permits. That's up, getting close to kind of the heyday of Delaware County, the residential boom in the early 2000s. This year I do expect that number will be down. We have seen some slowdown in the market due to interest rates, based on what we're hearing. So maybe back in the 1,300 to 1,400 permit range by the time this year is over. Next slide. So this map basically shows kind of where the growth is occurring in Delaware County. And of note, down in the bottom right corner, you see I've highlighted the Intel site. I'm going to touch on that at the very end of this presentation. Just kind of wanted to give you an idea kind of how that lays into the picture. Next slide. So we have a lot of projects going on in and around Orange Township. I basically took what I think are the top 10, and I'm going to run through these very quickly. Next slide. So I'll start with Dale Canyon Road improvements. You're aware that we've been working on this for some time with your staff. We believe we're just about ready to go out to bid on this project in the next month to 6 weeks. Phase 1 construction budget, we do not have the final engineer's estimate yet, but we will very shortly. We have a budget estimate of about $3.5 million. And you can see construction funding. I've laid out the current funding commitments. You have a $498,000 grant from OPWC, $500,000 grant from the TID, another $150,000 from the Delaware County commissioners through the RGAP local match, and then that leaves about $2.35 million that would be your share of the project. Any questions on any of that? Next slide, you can see kind of how the phases lay out. Red would be phase 1, which we're getting ready for. This will be a 2-lane road section, curb and gutter. It will look very similar to the section to the north of Orange Road. Basically carbon copy of that, except the path will be on the west side or the left side as you're going north. Slide. Okay, Green Meadows Drive extension. This is a county project we've been working on to try to get the connection from the new Home Road extension up to the Lewis Center roundabout at North Road. We will be ready to go to construction next spring on this, and this will be funded through a combination of the Slate Ridge commercial TIF as well as some special assessments on the abutting residential developments. So I've been working hard to try to fund this through a combination of the developments that are happening or in the area, really to minimize the public investment in this, because this is really largely a development road that, in our opinion, needs to be paid for in large part by the people that are going to be benefiting by it.
Rob, is this development that's currently in the zoning process, have you had conversations with them on?
Yes, we have. We have an agreement that's currently being negotiated on that, so I'll be able to tell you more probably in a few weeks, but that negotiation is ongoing.
Okay, and that's the Aldea project, so just for the board to understand.
It's a what project?
The Aldea, it's a multifamily district.
Oh.
Proposal. Saying that right.
So next project, if you just go up the road, very similar situation. This is bordered by Berlin Meadows to the west and future phase of Evans Farm to the east. I think that's section 3 of Evans Farm. We intend to go to construction on this next spring. There is a development agreement currently with Metro Development where they have already agreed to pay for 1/3 of the total project cost. We are diligently pursuing the same agreement with Evans Farm for the other third, another third, with the county paying the remaining third of that cost, overall about $4.5 million.
This one in the picture there, is that Shell Meadows?
It is, yes. Next slide. Old State and Hollenbach Road intersection. This is currently a four-way stop, as you know. Unfortunately, there have been some pretty serious injury accidents at this location in the past. We are just in the process of starting work on engineering at this intersection. We will be looking at either a traffic signal with turn lanes or a roundabout. We don't yet know what will be the best alternative, but we will be looking at both. We're probably about 3 to 4 years out from starting construction on this, but just wanted to make you aware that this is coming.
Have there been a lot of accidents recently? Like since they put those lighting up stop signs, which are very helpful.
I don't know that there have been as many recently. I think those have helped. I have noticed a pretty significant increase in delay as you go northbound in the afternoons on Old State. It does back up quite a bit, and so that will continue to get worse. Next slide, Shanahan Road improvements. I know I've talked about this project with several of you previously. The project would extend from basically Route 23 to North Road. Doug and I actually talked with Berlin Township a couple of months ago, briefed them on this project. What we would like to do and are planning on doing is starting engineering on this project early next year. Delaware County will pay for the engineering, the design work. We do need to come to agreement with both yourselves as well as Berlin Township on a cost-sharing arrangement. So we'll certainly have more discussions following, but in concept, I think your board is in a pretty good position with the Orange Summit development nearby that could help pay for a lot of this project cost. Any questions on any of that?
You know, we met with one of the trustees collectively at your office from Berlin. You and I did. I met with the second trustee over coffee, talked about this briefly, but shared some background. And I think, from my perspective, we'll be largely looking for engineer's office recommendation on that allocation and breakdown. I think their position is based, on what surface level, and they're not, when we talk, it's similar to the conversation we had in your office. I mean, so that's something that I personally would appreciate to have is, here are the factors that we factored into the dynamic or the cost share. And then I think Friday I have a final meeting with the superintendent on the Orange Summit option there, where we look at 10 versus 20 and kind of lock that in and move forward formally. So I should have an answer there. And I think, as we discussed in your office, if that pans out and goes forward, put us from a funding standpoint in a position to look at options. I know there were concerns with Berlin about funding, and certainly look at IGAs and things like that. So we'll lean heavily on your perspective on that, I think. Be my advice to the board. I just think that's a good objective perspective. You're not benefiting from either township portion of the pie, and so
that would be just fine, Mr. Grumbles. I think we may have already prepared, or we certainly can prepare kind of a proposed cost split arrangement between your board and Berlin Township. In the interest of keeping things moving, we're going to pay. The Delaware County is going to pay for the engineering either way, so we'll be able to keep moving ahead while we work through those details.
Yep.
Okay. Next project, Home Road extension. This is basically in two parts. There'll be another slide showing a portion of this, but basically this includes the last section of Home Road up and over the railroad up to Lewis Center Road. Altogether, this is about a $20 million effort. $17 million of that will involve getting over the railroad, and then we have almost another $3 million to spend at the intersection of Lewis Center Road. So if you can flip to the next slide, Michelle. So this is basically what we are proposing to build starting next year. This will be a roundabout at Lewis Center Road, and then a southern extension for a portion of the length through the land that Delaware County currently owns, as well as just a little bit into the Delco water property. The good news is we should be able to construct this while maintaining traffic. We're proposing to build a temporary road around the north side to maintain traffic on Lewis Center Road. So aside from some short-term disruptions as we tie in both sides, for the most part, we can maintain traffic. Again, the goal is to get that done by the end of next year.
So originally the overpass was supposed to have been done like next year, was it 2023?
Yeah, going back about 6 or 7 years, that's about when we thought it might be done. Unfortunately, we've had a number of factors come into that. The biggest and most notable is we've got two railroads that, frankly, we're in a dispute at PUCO with both railroads over the Franklin Street crossing. We have not come to terms with Norfolk Southern on their cost share towards this project. I don't want to get into the details since it's an ongoing negotiation, but needless to say, we think the railroads will significantly benefit from this project. And so we are looking for some cost share out of the railroads. That has not been finalized yet.
Yeah, it's just a shame because we approved all those, the apartments and the commercial and all that with the understanding that it would be the overpass and the bypass would be done by about, I think it was 2023 or so. Were you weren't here then, were you?
I do remember that.
Do you remember that? Yeah, we were I know it's beyond your control, but that's a shame that won't be done sooner.
If it were simply a matter of going and building it would have been done. Unfortunately, when you get the railroads involved,
they aren't very
so much is out of our hands.
I do understand that.
Yep. Okay, so on to the next railroad crossing. I want to talk about Orange Road, and I've got some nice pictures to show you in just a second. The status of this project, we have plans approximately 30% complete. As of now, those plans are being reviewed by the railroads. I would say the current holdup, if you will, if it is a holdup, or at least the current major issue, is getting approval from Norfolk and Southern to have a temporary at-grade crossing. As it stands now, NS has not approved an at-grade crossing, which would basically mean in order to build this, we would have to close Orange Road completely for a year plus. That's certainly not palatable to any of us, something we want to avoid at all costs, but ultimately we need to have the railroad approve an at-grade crossing. So that we are working with them. I have asked them to consider that. But the long and short of it is it's about a $25 million project. We anticipate continuing through design through 2024. I think the earliest realistically that we'll be able to go to construction is 2026 on this.
Are you proceeding with the negotiations even if it needs to be shut down for a year or more?
Yes.
I think that's unacceptable. I think if our residents right now were to find out that would be shut down for 1 year plus, it would be a non-starter because people can't even handle it being shut down for a day or 2 weeks. I mean, when this is shut down for whatever reason, construction or a train stuck, even if it's planned, the traffic is absolutely horrendous trying to get anywhere in Orange Township. So I mean, how soon will you know? Because we're spending a lot of money towards something that sometimes government works where they just keep spending money and then one day things kind of fall apart and then they say, well, we already spent all this money. We just need to keep proceeding even if it's not the best thing for the people. So how can we prevent that from happening?
So a couple thoughts there. First, we will continue negotiating, and if negotiation fails, we'll pursue other options. Secondly, the design of the railroad bridges themselves, those are somewhat independent of the temporary crossings. So that design doesn't go bad. It doesn't go stale. It can be used at any time once the project moves ahead. And so we'd like to continue through the design and get it designed and approved by the railroad, at least what it will look like in the end, while we work through the details of what happens during construction. So What you're looking at now is a rendering showing before and after. This, again, would be an underpass. It will be a 4-lane road with paths on both sides.
When we met a couple weeks ago, just so the community is aware, there won't be any homes on the east side of the tracks that are impacted. The water tower is not impacted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. This is a closer image looking at what those bridges will look like. See, both of the railroads are, I don't know if you'd say asking or demanding, but are requiring that we build additional width on the bridge to accommodate a future track for both CSX and for Norfolk Southern. So the bridge will be wider than the current railroads. The road will have 4 lanes going under the bridge with a path on both sides.
And, okay, you're gonna review the,
Yeah, so this is kind of an overview of where things stand right now with project cost. We currently have a commitment from Morpsey for surface transportation funds of $7 million. We have a number of different funding options that we intend on exploring. Some of those involve direct grants directly through Federal Highway Administration, Federal Railroad Administration, as part of the infrastructure bill that was passed earlier this year. So that we will be pursuing those in the coming year or so. There's actually two programs that could potentially fund this project. We also have ODOT. ODOT has funds available for this type of project. Then, of course, we have several TIFs in the area that can help contribute either towards a local match or, if we aren't successful in getting federal grants, towards the remaining share. And then, of course, township and county funds, I guess, down at the bottom if needed. So a lot more to be determined. I think that the next action point is to apply for the grants, which we will do. Hopefully we have some success with those.
why are they declining the temporary at-grade crossing?
I don't have a good answer for you because they basically don't want, there is some complexity in adding new. It would basically be moving the existing crossing to the south by maybe 100 feet, putting the temporary road in between the water tower and the existing road. What they've told us is it's more complicated than simply putting up lights and gates 100 feet away. They are very interested in safety. As they've told us, they want to ensure that those gates, there's fiber optic cables and connectivity all the way up and down the railroad that connect all those warning systems together. Any type of work that potentially jeopardizes that, they are very, very reluctant to approve. And so that's, in a nutshell, the answer we got from them. But again,
would it proceed? And then, I mean, who makes the call whether or not it gets shut down for a year if this doesn't work?
I think that's a joint decision by yourselves and our office and the Board of Commissioners. I think that's a future discussion.
Okay, because I mean, like I said, I'm concerned that it's going to get to the point where, well, we've already spent $10 million on this. We just got to push through and just shut it down. Too bad. I've seen this, in my 24 years in government. It seems like it happens a lot where you spend so much money up front and then you're so invested in it that you have to proceed with it. Yeah, you're locked in. And I mean, I see that with multiple projects, and there's no way we could have that crossing shut down for a year. And then, a year would definitely become a year and a half. I mean, it's never just 1 year. So that's my biggest concern. And I think residents are very excited about it, and it's nice to finally see this rendering.
Mm-hmm.
It looks beautiful, and very functional. But I wonder if, I think if people found out that it needed to be shut down for an entire year, yeah, they would, yeah. So how can we, what else can be done? Like, what are the chances they're actually going to agree to that?
Well, as I said, we are continuing to push through the normal channels, I would say, with the railroads. It's, I hate to say, only been a few months, but in railroad time, that's not very long. The railroads have hundreds of projects just like this all across the country. There is certainly litigation possibility. I know that the railroads have approved temporary grade
Yeah,
crossings
yeah.
in similar situations, and so this isn't something we just came out.
Yeah, I
Just-
know it happens. And we have such a huge population and so many people use that road. Or they're aware of that. Plus, just for safety, I mean, happier drivers are safer drivers as far as, you know, taking risky behavior around railroads. So you'd think they would be all in favor of this. But yeah, that would be, I mean, I don't know if I'm still going to be here whenever this would occur. I might not be, but definitely, I'm not in favor of having it shut down for that long. So that's my major concern. And then we don't know what the township portion of the cost would be yet, correct? But the whole project is 25 million.
It's a bunch of.
It could vary
Yeah,
hugely.
I think the variables are listed in here. What's locked in and committed and what's up for grabs.
Well, so 7 million is committed, right?
Yep, the rest I think is.
There's 18 million. Like we could be expected to spend 5 or 10 million. I mean, what are the chances? Because we won't have that kind of money.
Again, there's two grant opportunities specifically. 1 and 2 would involve programs that exist, programs that have funded projects like this in the past. That's before we even get to the TIF funding, and frankly, Slate Ridge, the Creekside, Orange Road, all of those will generate a good bit of money. It's really just more
We
of
just don't know how
a
much.
cash flow issue of having the cash when needed.
Yeah,
Correct.
we don't know how much we're going to get. And I understand that. It's just it's a lot of money for it, and there's so many things that are up in the air, and just have some concerns on that.
So I've
Yeah.
got a couple questions. So I keep seeing emails about the railroad crossing elimination program from OTA. Is that one of the grants that you guys are pursuing?
Yes, that is a pot of money. It's a smaller pot of money. Mostly involves safety upgrades, but we will certainly pursue that as well.
And is CXX okay with the railroad crossing?
They have given us preliminary approval. They only have the single track, and there's a lot less train traffic on their system. But yes, they have.
The railroad is very hard to work with.
And they wanted to close down the Franklin Street crossing.
I believe
That was-
both of the railroads
Both of the railroads
requested that. Yes. The other thing I want to make sure I mention, it is our intention, regardless of whether what the outcome of the temporary grade crossing would be, it is our intention to have Home Road complete and open to traffic either way
Before this
would break ground.
Yes. A lot of pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would. Awesome. All right, thank you.
Okay, so this is not obviously in Orange Township. I did want to brief you, just give you a brief update on where things stand at 71 and 36. There's been a lot of activity recently with development, and we continue to work with ODOT on an upgrade at this interchange. This graphic kind of shows what that will look like. It will function very similarly to Polaris Gemini. So what I can tell you now is we are actively working on the light blue phase, which is called Phase A. That will include the ramps to the freeway and a connection to Wilson Road. On the east side, we are probably about 30% through the final design, and we'll potentially be able to go to construction in 2025. We still have to buy some land for the interchange. We'll be working with ODOT on that, but in terms of funding, we are getting very close to having Phase A fully funded and continuing to work on that. So, any questions on that? Big Walled Interchange. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this because this could probably be a meeting all by itself. But I do want to brief you on where things stand right now. You may have seen a couple of weeks ago article in the Dispatch. The commissioners have recently approved a contract to basically continue studying the interchange, looking at basically a little bit different benefit evaluation for the new interchange. Get a lot of questions from folks asking, I thought you already studied the interchange, what happened? In a nutshell, all that analysis among other things, that analysis showed that a lot of traffic, basically that's currently using some of the parallel roads, Route 23, Old State, State Route 3, a lot of those trips basically migrate to the new interchange and use I-71. That's to be expected. Unfortunately, it does create more traffic on 71. And unfortunately, if that can't be mitigated, if there's more delay on 71, that's basically a non-starter for ODOT. So that's kind of where things have stood for the last several years. What we're looking at now, in essence, is are there other things that we need to be considering? ODOT has kind of broadened their consideration of new interchanges to look at things like vehicle miles traveled, vehicle hours traveled, connectivity between the local system and the freeway, more than just that peak hour pass fail test that we always kind of used in the past. So in essence, that's what we're looking at right now. It's a limited scope study, just looking at the traffic, just looking at these particular additional metrics. So that work will take about 8 to 12 months. And at that point, we'll have a better idea whether this is actually a viable project. So, any questions on that?
No questions, but I would say the only request I have, and I've surfaced this a few times, I think with you directly as well as publicly. We talked about the Intel impact, right? And I think if we open up access to the township on the east side, you start talking about in this document, reading ahead there about the impact in Harlem and in those areas because the infrastructure is not there to support the uptick in east-west traffic. And I've talked with Jerry Paul about that a bit. He's called me a few times, and we're friends. So he's asked me, well, this is picking up quick, and they're spinning their wheels trying to get ready. I view an interchange like that as having a similar disruptive impact on the township dynamic, the existing traffic dynamic, especially given that location in proximity to other communities. It's kind of at that crossroads, if you will, the Genoa and then even I think with Berlin, not terribly far, that it could change things quite a bit. My concern lies in the supporting infrastructure that would feed into that corridor, into that ramp and shift in traffic, similar to what you mentioned ODOT's concerned with. Mm-hmm. What's the trickle down effect, right? So I look at that burden being shifted to the township and, with the township roads, Bale Canyon, the county roads, Lewis Center, South Old State, et cetera, but they run right through the township. So nonetheless, more project work or, what happens at Shanahan Road, we're talking about, expanding that. You look at how everybody's going to get over there. Is it going to take, volume off of the repair and some of the stuff we've done? So I would just say, my ask would be that we really do a hard study on, projected traffic patterns and what that means for township roads and infrastructure and potential burden on us financially and otherwise. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Got the tickle. So, well, as I said, we'll know more in probably 8 to 12 months. At this time, again, it's a somewhat limited study. We know there will need to be more work done if it does look like it's a viable project. But again, we understand your position.
Yep. Thank you.
How much has been spent so far on the project?
About $750,000.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, I'm not in favor of the project at all. I think I've mentioned that for many of the same reasons. And even though I was aware it may be a possibility since it was first discussed 2000 or something, but I think it would just destroy the entire area. It's such a beautiful part of our township and bring a ton of traffic in, and I'm really not in favor of it.
Okay, what do we got left? Intel?
So excuse me. I did just briefly want to talk about the ODOT Route 23 Connect study. I know you've probably already heard from ODOT, excuse me, about this. Basically what they what ODOT concluded was that none of the alternatives were feasible. They all cost too much. There simply wasn't enough funding to advance any of those. I think some of the good news we have to take out of that, though, is that it is starting to look at Route 23, the existing routes, and making some upgrades. We think that would have had to happen either way, so that's some good news in that decision. So I guess you take the good with the bad, right?
Consolidate their focal points and their capacity on fixing what we have instead of what ifs, right?
Right.
Yeah, true. Good point.
So last but not least, I did want to talk a little bit about Intel. We spent a good time already. I say already. Intel's moving fast, and so we have to move fast. But we have had really countless meetings with ODOT, with some influential people at the state level about kind of what Intel means for Central Ohio, what it means for Delaware County. And so one of the things we know that will happen is that commuting patterns will change. Most of the commuting in this area is oriented north-south. Some of that will shift to east-west. And so, Michelle, if you can go to the next slide. You can see this is a map that Morpsey put together about a year ago. Gives you a good idea where the travel times are around Central Ohio. You can see that Delaware County is entirely within that 1 hour circle. Orange Township, you're right in that 30 minute ring. So clearly a desirable place for some of the people that will work at Intel to live. So just for kind of real world, if you can skip to the next slide, Michelle. I did this a couple hours ago. I looked at basically the actual travel time from where we are now to Intel. It's about 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes, depending on the route. The important takeaway here is that if you look at, the shortest route, at least at 4 o'clock today, was Old State to Polaris 71. Taking that gray route, kind of the local alternative, is only about 1 minute slower. So what that means for us at the county level, what it means for you at the township level, more traffic on local roads.
Yep.
How many jobs is that expected to create?
20,000 or something.
The estimates I've heard are anywhere from 15,000 to 15,000 and up.
I heard 20. This is the reality is this is gonna put the entire nation really in the market for that product. It's critical. It's a huge win for the entire country, and it's pretty amazing it landed here, to be honest. So.
Sorry for the coughing fit. I've been fighting
I
this
saw
for a
you
while.
got that Ricola, so
Yeah,
you're all good
so that's
now.
helping. But again, I know you've got a full agenda tonight, but again, we're always here to answer any questions you've got or have conversations about some of the projects that are going on. Hopefully this was helpful in looking what's coming up.
It was helpful, and I think what is even more helpful is being able to post the presentation for our residents and keep them in constant, level of information on what's happening around the area and what the county's looking at, and we can throw in the township perspective,
Right.
So they have a good picture. Like I said, there's several county roads that run right through our township, so this gives a good balanced approach to what's happening around them, and we appreciate your partnership and support. Hopefully after this week we'll have a good announcement, and couldn't have done that without you actually calling me. So I appreciate that.
Very good.
Who put this presentation together?
I did.
Oh, it's very good. This is one of the better presentations I've
Thank
ever
you.
seen in my whole career. It's very easy to understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help,
Yes.
Thanks.
as always. All right. You take a quick 5-minute recess before we jump into the zoning hearing.
So we have a full 5 minutes.
Not a full 5 minutes, but up to 5
Up
minutes.
to 5.
Make a motion to take a recess?
Second.
Mrs. Spouse?
Yes.
Ms. Nat? Yes. Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Alrighty.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 22-364, return to regular session.
Mrs. Faust? Ms. Knapp? Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Okay, next order of business, we have zoning hearing for zoning application 22-06. This is for 6519 Columbus Pike LLC, care of PJ Land Development. This was continued from prior meeting. I did not take public comment prior, but understand there's probably a lot of public comment here related to this. So I'll open the floor now for any public comment prior to jumping into the zoning hearing. When you come up, if you could state your name and address. For the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes to share your concerns. We just opened up public comment. Ask if you come to the podium, you state your full name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to comment on any agenda topics if you have them. Go ahead.
My question is.
You can come to the podium. You'll have to come up.
It's just a question, but I can't.
That's okay. Still have to be on the record.
When we get to specific topics, is there public comment sections during topics?
For which topic, sir?
Let's say, for example, there's a zoning discussion.
Right. You can share that now, or when we go to this is a continued hearing, so we have already had a session with public comments. The board can open it back up, or you can share your concerns now.
Just not sure.
Go ahead, Julie.
I don't want to take anybody's time until I hear the presentation.
So,
So
that would take place when the board reopens the hearing
Okay.
itself, yes.
Okay. I know typically when we've continued hearings, if we already had public comment before, we would have to note that we're reopening public comment during the hearing.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So there's no public comment on other matters. I'll go ahead and open the zoning hearing for application 22-06 at this time. Turn it over to you, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So since our previous hearing on this application, the applicant has provided us with an updated lighting plan resulting in lower foot candle levels along the eastern property line of the site in question. I believe they have reworked their fence a little bit as well. They have also added a pork chop island at the north end of their drive aisle there along the entrance to Lewis Center Road to prohibit any left turn movement out of that drive aisle. They did, as of earlier today, the applicant did submit an updated site plan that shows the inventory of trees that are on that site. I believe some that are on the neighboring parcel as well. The board has physical copies of that in front of you. They also provided us with a memo detailing the changes from the previous hearing. I would say the board asked for an updated tree study and updated specifics as to noise and sound emanating from the car wash facility. No additional specifics were provided for the sound as the board requested. I will add one more thing, which is I believe at our previous trustee meeting, Mr. Grumbles had asked me to provide the board with uses that would be permitted for this site were it to go under the overlay zoning. I apologize for the lateness of that. I have sent it to you this afternoon, but just to clarify, if this parcel were in the overlay district, commercial and office establishments of any type would be permitted here unless prohibited in section 20.05. Auto-oriented uses are listed as a prohibited use in all of the overlay district per section 20.05, meaning that a car wash operation such as this would not be permitted on this parcel through the overlay. Just so that the board is clear, if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm sorry, is that the only prohibited use?
No,
Under the overlay?
no, there would be others.
Here's ours.
So
You should have a paper on your desk there that So,
Commercial and office establishments of any type unless otherwise prohibited, transient hotels, schools, daycares, religious institutions, government offices, libraries, community centers, fitness and recreation centers, and post offices, assisted living facilities, hospitals, medical facilities, nursing homes, hospices, or convalescent homes.
Those are all permitted uses.
Correct.
Under the overlay. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. So you, okay. Oh, so the permitted use is for the parcel that Tidal Wave is applying for, but they're not applying for those permitted uses. Okay.
That is correct. They are not applying under the
Okay,
overlay
that was
district.
the way it was worded. So all of these are under the, okay, I gotcha. Auto-oriented uses. So no auto-oriented uses.
Under the overlay zone, correct.
But the overlay includes everything else but the auto-oriented?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it restricts fueling stations.
Yes.
everything you
I'm
read
sorry.
off.
What did you
Yes.
say? I'm sorry.
It also restricts or prohibits fueling stations.
So I apologize too. I couldn't articulate in the last, when we originally had the hearing. But when we sat down to redo the overlay, there was specific effort in paying attention to permitted uses. And so the base for my, I guess, desire to not move forward with this, to allow this rezoning, was based on the fact that we actually took an effort to eliminate this particular use from the overlay district, understanding that the underlying permitted use prior to this application, there still is potential that someone could apply to develop it as a market or the other uses that they
Gas
use.
station.
Yeah, right.
So they could currently rezone this or request a rezoning to any of these uses.
Under the
Just
overlay.
standard, yeah, or a standard rezoning, and not under the overlay.
That is correct.
Oh,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
thanks.
The applicant wants to come up and if you want to come up and make any comments or share any remarks from the last meeting, that'd be fine. And at that point, after that, I'll open up public comment again. So if you have any feedback there, I know some folks are waiting. Hello?
Hi, good evening. Kaylee Bevington. I'm a project manager with Bowler. For the civil engineering consultant, we're here on behalf of PJ Land. I'm here with
Jack Reynolds, attorney, Smith & Hill, Columbus, Ohio, 43215.
So I'll just get into a little bit of specifics about each of those concerns that Robin kind of touched on here, and then Jack and I are happy to answer any questions. So I know a big topic of discussion last time was removal of mature trees along the property line. We were able to get a surveyor out there to document any trees with an 8-inch or greater diameter at breast height. And so those are on the updated demolition plan that you guys have received today. Obviously, given the constraints of where our driveway needs to be and staying out of the setbacks, we are removing some trees. However, we're going to make every effort to save any mature tree we can, as far as even taking the fence and kind of jogging it around mature trees wherever possible to try and protect them. There will be a note on the plan. I'm sorry.
So is the orange?
Orange would be trees to be removed.
Okay.
And then there's trees shown. It's kind of hard to see on the screen there, but they're like a gray color.
Yep,
Those
I
are
see
to
those.
remain.
And that's on the other parcel?
There's some on our parcel and the neighboring parcel that
Okay.
are remaining.
But you wouldn't take any off the adjacent parcel?
No.
Right? Or-
No.
All those orange ones are gone.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's not all the trees out there necessarily. Those are just the largest trees surveyed.
But I think if you were to develop almost anything, a lot of those trees would need to be.
Yeah, just the fact that the county engineer is kind of requiring our driveway be there, it's going to force a lot of development in that
Yeah.
side, unfortunately.
Any development will require the trees to come down.
So like I said, we put a note on the plans, GC, to protect all mature trees as much as possible, jogging the fence around it, and then obviously arborvitae will be planted, but giving way to a mature tree. We wouldn't remove a tree in place of arborvitae, obviously. So that's that. Again, happy to answer any questions when we get to the end here about the tree survey. Lighting impacting neighboring residential property. That one was pretty simple. I just had our lighting engineer take another look at it, adding in that 8-foot fence. And that pretty much took care of any bleed over beyond 0 or 0.1 foot candles. Again, happy to answer any questions on that one. Noise. I know Robin mentioned we didn't give any specific updated report. We did get we were able to get a table this afternoon showing what the projected decibel level would be at that residential property line from the vac house. I know there was concern about the vacuums and the noise associated with those. Let me pull up my notes here. Oh, thank you. So our property line, we're about 91 feet away from the vac house. The decibel level projected there would be about 57. Just for reference, somewhere around 60 decibels is like normal conversation level. 55 would be like a household refrigerator. Just for, I know sometimes it's hard to visualize isn't the right word, but
you said 55.
Imagine sound.
55 is what?
Conversation.
Oh, you said 60 is conversation.
Yeah.
60 is conversational speech.
But what is 55?
55 would be like a household refrigerator.
If I remember, when our discussion last month it was about, I can't remember, 62, given that the exterior fans face towards 23, the amount of decibel that comes back this way diminished rapidly and was close to, if not about that level.
Correct.
By the time you went all the way through the front of the machinery back across, it was almost 300 feet or something.
Correct, yeah.
So it dropped off.
The orientation of the building directs those blowers in basically the least offensive way to that neighboring residential property.
But you still have to add the noise of the fans, even if it's 60, plus the 60 of the 57 of the vacuums together, right?
They're all the same level.
Yeah, they'll be.
Oh,
they'll,
so
they'll,
that's
they'll,
like
equal each other out.
Yeah, it doesn't really add up.
Wait,
That
so
doesn't.
are you saying, I'm sorry, that, so this is the vacuum pump house, but not the blowers?
Correct, but the blowers end up being about the same. They're louder. The blowers are louder,
they're
but
farther
because they're
away.
going the opposite direction.
And how far away is the closest house? I know we were kind of guessing last time, the closest house to like the vacuums.
I don't have the residential. I don't have the actual house distance. I know the property line itself is 91 feet
91 feet, sorry, you said 91 feet.
to the property line.
The vacuums are 91, the closest vacuum is 91 feet to the property line? Okay. And the house was back,
Last time.
but it's at least 100 feet total,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
It's because the house is much more than 10 feet off the property line. I'm going to venture to guess it's.
does
at
it
least
get
40 or
lower
50
than
feet.
the decibels as it gets
It
farther?
would continue to get lower. The other thing that's not necessarily taken into account with that 57 decibel estimate is the fence and the vegetation. There's no great way to model that, so that would further lower the sound penetrating across that property line.
And it seemed like the house was at least 50 or 100 feet.
Yeah, just by guessing. Oh, sorry. go ahead.
So my rough guesstimate, it's roughly 60 feet from the property line.
60 feet.
So
150 feet roughly.
100-ish.
And the house, I believe, is offset a little bit from our proposed developments towards the back of their property there. Any other questions on sound before I continue? To my list. Next topic of discussion, I believe, is concern about patrons making a left turn out of the site. Obviously, the intent is not to allow that. There's really only so much we can do. And obviously, anything we do at that curb cut would be subject to the approval of the county engineer that is within the county right-of-way. So we can't commit to anything incredibly specific as far as dimensions or anything like that for the pork chop, but the intent would be to have a concrete median pork chop shape there to at least far reduce anyone making a left. If someone's making a left turn, they're making a blatant attempt to go against the direction of travel.
Robert, do you need copies of these? Do you have copies of
I think I'm good, thank you. I do have one question on the pork chop. So my understanding is that, okay, so I guess I'm seeing it here because there would be a left turn movement into the site from Lewis Center Road, so the pork chop would not prevent that left turn movement in.
Correct, yeah, and the county engineer said they could be in favor of that movement. So, you know, we can only take the pork chop so far before we start impeding on other lanes of travel, but we would be more than willing to do the pork chop as well as striping and signage to, you know, direct people to make that right turn as much as we can. Any other questions on that one? Okay. And then last thing, intensity of traffic. I know there's been concern about the use, and obviously this requires a rezoning. That's why we're here. And I know the previous use included some type of like convenience store, mart scenario. I know a gas station's been looked at before, and I believe fast food restaurant would be permitted here. So we just had our traffic engineer run some quick trip gen numbers. These are from the ITE trip generation manual, 11th edition, which is, I believe, the most current. As you can see, our car wash is actually a relatively low intensity use compared to those uses. And that's just our way of kind of communicating that, you know, any use here is going to generate some traffic. Obviously, that's understood. That's where our customers come from. But it's certainly a lower intensity use than maybe some other things that could come in here.
Plus, it has more limited hours.
Correct. Yeah. Again, they only operate basically during daylight hours. So
you said that's an hourly.
There's
right. So is
from
that
7 to 9 and from 4 to 6 is PM.
Is it 24? The assumption there's 24 during that entire duration, or is there 24 per hour during that duration, or?
There would be 24 entering and 24 exiting during that AM PM peak.
during
that window.
During that window.
Wait, per 2 hour period, not per 1 hour. It's not per hour.
If I remember correctly,
I believe it's a 2 hour.
2 hour period.
So 24 for the car wash, 24 entry, 24 exit within the 2 hour period for AM.
Correct.
And the
So
same thing for
48
PM.
cars. You're going to see
In general.
cars.
Mhm.
Now, and traffic engineers work in mysterious ways. They, for some odd reason, they pick 7 to 9 and 4 to 6, and obviously there is traffic during the rest of the day. So this is just the way that they gauge.
I think that's the book that has all the national averages and.
Yeah, this is a standard.
Yeah, it's not localized or whatever.
No, well, I mean, the traffic engineer did take into account trip counts on these specific roads, the county road and the state road. And then they apply whatever methodology traffic engineers used out of that manual to come up with these numbers.
Okay.
So you might see different numbers at a different intersection in another part of the town, but for our location, that's what the numbers are.
Does it actually like match up with car wash use? Like, do people usually get their car washes 7 to 9 in the morning, or is it more like, I wouldn't think there's as much of, unless it's a weekend, people getting their car washed on the way to work, you know?
This is their
Just
methodology.
standard.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that methodology.
I would think it would be
7
less
to 8.
than, maybe, but I would think maybe busier in the afternoon, but, or maybe the
Again, that's
weekend
why
makes
they
up for
say
it.
The trip generation is between 7 and 9, so they could focus more between the 8 and 12. I mean, the 8 and 9 period.
Yeah.
But they're just giving you that.
Or it could be lunch hour. I mean, a lot of people get their cars washed during lunch hour. Like, it could be 10 to 1 or whatever.
Obviously, the concern, I think, is usually how are we impacted during a rush hour event?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think they lean towards those windows.
Yeah, but I would think it would not, just thinking about it, wouldn't be as much of an impact during the AM.
I would agree personally.
You think it would be staggered versus like fast food or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a traffic engineer, but usually I would go after work probably.
Exactly. You aren't getting car washed on the way in, but you are getting gas on the way to work. So
yeah. So anyway, those are just for reference, really just food for thought. We thought they would be helpful for discussion purposes.
That's a tremendous difference.
So I think that covers everything that we at least gathered. Jack, if you want to add on anything.
I think that was the items that we discussed the last time. And we are still doing the 8-foot fence with the arborvitaes in order provide the greenery as well as the sound protection. And as Kaylee indicated, the fence, if you looked at the site plan, will jog in and out in order to protect trees that are there along our 6-foot side yard. So we are trying to protect as many of those mature trees as we possibly can.
Would you be willing to work with a neighboring property owner, like to discuss it with them and if they have input? I mean, it's not binding, but you know, if they
Yeah.
want to say, hey, we want to really save this, can we make it work? And
There were some large, I want to say there was one that was like a 42-inch diameter tree that we're protecting. Obviously, it's a very mature tree. We would want to protect that, certainly.
okay.
So, and I know that was why it was noted last time. So here we have the survey. We have the actual data for you. And actually, just real quick, a note. If you look at the symbols there's two different symbols. One's more of like an open circle shape, and one has like kind of a star shape. That just expresses the difference between evergreen and deciduous. So the evergreen would remain green, obviously, all year round, and the others would right now be dropping their leaves, just for clarity.
And is that, you said that 48-inch tree, is that shown on the tree study?
There should be, there's a number, it's probably hard to see here, but you see there's a little number next to the symbol that indicates the diameter of the tree trunk. So it should, most of those are 6 or 8 inches and above.
Wow. Is being preserved.
Yeah,
Trees.
there actually might have been a couple, but I know we were protecting one or two.
Is that 42-inch?
Correct, yep.
They didn't show you the ones that they're preserving, the the inch caliper of the tree, so they didn't call those out.
We did not.
No.
We did, but it's harder to see because they're grayed back on this demolition plan.
Right. The gray ones are the ones that are,
I know it's counterintuitive because the orange is basically getting taken out, but that's because this is the demolition sheet. They also would show up on the site plan.
so wait, that the gray are being preserved.
Correct. So you can see right there. That's a good example. That's a clump of evergreen trees on the neighbor's property that would be preserved. We're not touching those.
So did you say the 72-inch is shown in here?
There's a 42-inch, yeah.
Or 42?
48 there.
42, not 72. Yeah, redwood.
When I look at the site plan, it looks like that one's going to be on the car wash side of the fence.
Correct. Yeah, there's a couple large ones on our side of the fence that are being kept. We really tried to keep them unless they were, in the middle of the drive aisle. There's not much we can do there. But
Well, I think that it would be the same regardless. This is such a weird shaped property that, and you have to have access to the south. So no matter what is developed here, be it a gas station or fast food or other annoying development, those trees would probably need to be taken out.
yeah, I would agree. Just because of the driveway location, that's just how the nature of the development, unfortunately.
Right, we'll go ahead and open the,
Thank you.
thank you. Allow for reopen public comment for this zoning application. If there's anyone who'd like to come up, please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is John Oreskevich. And I'm a 28-year-old resident of this township. And if this was a court of law, I wouldn't have any standing here. I'm not a neighbor. I'm not an adjacent property. I live halfway across the town. But I'm bringing this concern with the fact that I'm a 28-year-old resident, or 28-year resident to the township. Incidentally, I don't know if it's been in the record or not. It was a gas station at that thing. When I moved in, there was a gas station at the intersection of that. And for the longest time, there was a concern because there were tanks in the ground. And so I don't know whether or not any of this has addressed any of the EPA concerns with the fact that there were tanks in the ground, and whether or not that has been thoroughly removed and cleared and the ground has passed EPA consideration. And the plans I saw shown that there was some recirculation for water and stuff, which involves some digging up and what have you. So I'm just going to clarify that was a gas station at one time. And with that in mind, it's put a kind of a damper in the time I was here on what kind of stuff could go in there because of the fact there were tanks in the ground. And that's one of the concerns that I think in general that comes up with what we call a single-use facility. I know the trustees have graciously worked hard to try to find proper zoning items that in the unlikely event the business does not succeed, can it be multi-purposed to something else? My counterpart, my partner, she's a commercial bank lender, and I don't know how that applies to this other than to say that single-use facilities are the ugliest things that you could put out there. Because if this doesn't fail, this business doesn't work, you're not going to turn it into a drive-through, you're not going to turn it into a commercial store, you're not going to turn it into a restaurant. You've got a car wash, and that car wash is probably going to be stuck in that corner for many, many, many years to come. And as the comprehensive land use plan shows, that is one of the two most prominent intersections in this township. If there is any underground water reclamation, who knows? I don't, but if there's any considerations for what that means to the use of the facility and that land in the future. A couple of other real quick comments that I had when reviewing this particular application. I was kind of disappointed in how it was presented in this relative to the scope of the entire area. I did notice that there was a lot of requests for variances. Now, I don't understand, and maybe I'm just naive in this whole zoning process, that a zoning code is put in place so that we don't have variances. This is how this stuff works. So I get a variance here and there. But one of the variances, maybe it was addressed, I don't know, was the setback off of Route 23. Now, I took an aerial view. I had to do it on my own. I zoomed back and looked at all the beautiful buildings that were lined up pretty far off that road that go all the way past Ohio Mulch. And my first thought was, this is great because if Ohio, the U.S. Route 23 district wants to come in and add some more lanes to help mitigate the traffic, or put a service road in, as I think was one of the options in the last thing we looked at. There were all kinds of opportunities for that because all that land is available for that. And then here's this development, which is encroaching that corner right on that. Okay, well, that shoots that idea all to hell, I guess. Unless we have to go back and rebuy the land that we zoned that shouldn't have been zoned that way in the first place. Secondly, I get concerned about how there is no visible show how this land, and I got nothing against the car wash. It's just how the land is being used, how a round peg is being put on a square hole here is, why do I not see visuals of the roads the way they currently are? I think in the application, one of the plates shows a picture of the roads that looks like it was from 1980 something. It was before the lanes weren't even in place. There's no cars on the road. It's a nice, beautiful, look, no impact. I went to Google Maps, and I encourage you all to do that, and take this overlay and put it over Google Maps. And you'll see that the entrance and exit's about where the double lanes for left turns going from Lewis Center onto Route 23 is. So what's the consideration for, I travel that road frequently, I'm not sure if you do, but if you want to take a left turn right now going southbound on Route 23, that's a double lane stacked up school buses all the way past almost to that light by where the Kroger's is. All you need is somebody there needing to take a left turn now into any kind of a business to slow that mess down and cause a heck of a turn. Now, granted, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it probably doesn't have an issue. But from what I just heard a minute ago, this primary traffic concern is during the hours that we call rush hour here in Orange Township. So that's my concern with that, is that you're not mitigating the traffic. You're increasing the problem, if anything else at all. And again, that goes with where the pork chop is and how that aligns to the left turn lanes and what have you. So again, just in recap, it's okay to say no. I guess that's my bottom line on this. I've been here for 28 years. Everything comes in. Not everything is good. Let's just be honest about it. Some things fit, some things don't. We have a comprehensive use plan. If it fits it, move on. Has zoning, if it fits it, fine. But if it starts asking for variances after variance after variance, that's a disrespect to the people of Orange Township that live here. It disrespects the citizens that have put all that time into creating that zoning code in the first place, who said this is the way we need it to be. So again, nothing personal against the car wash, nothing personal against the people representing the car wash. I'm thinking it's just about time that we let the zoning live and stop trying to squeeze round pegs into square holes. And that's my comments.
Did you give your address?
Mine?
Mhm.
Sure. It's 5656 Ketch Street, and that's in the Shores, right here in Orange Township.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And incidentally, I didn't plan on coming. I just happened to look at, oh God, I gotta get there.
Thank you. Robin, how many variances are there?
There is one divergence requested, which is to not plat the site. There are no setback divergences.
Yeah, there's no other, there's this.
Yes.
Yeah, it meets every single requirement basically. So and it does fit the land use plan and it does fit the zoning. So it's,
The concern about the tanks, we did get a environmental phase 1 done for the site as well.
so the tanks are removed and it's been
Mhm.
remediated and all that.
Yep.
That's a good question. I had not thought of that. So in theory, so the information that was presented, so technically right now, this property is zoned, it could have a produce barn, a restaurant, and a gas station, correct?
Correct.
So someone could come in and they would still have to give a plan, provide a plan, right, for it. But what if the plan met the prior zoning? I don't think that's possible, but
They would have to apply for a zoning permit and then all other necessary permits through Delaware County. But yes, in theory, they could.
in theory,
If
because
it met the previous development plan, they could.
No different than if they applied for an overlay use and met exactly what's listed in the
yeah,
overlay.
exactly.
Correct.
It'd go through without objection.
And that's the thing, like these days, the last 20 years, we've had zoning with a plan. So if you don't meet those requirements, you have to come back in. But the zoning from whenever this was zoned in the 90s, 80s, when was it? 97. So back when it was zoned, we weren't as picky. There weren't as many details. So unlike today, where we have a lot of things. So my concern at the last, I'm not a fan of another car wash in the area. I mean, we already have so many, but it's not, obviously I don't think it's legal to say we have too many car washes. But my concern at the last meeting was the number of trips. And so this is claiming 48 trips basically in the morning, peak hours, and 52 at night. If this was rezoned or a current gas station was put in that meets the existing zoning, which was a gas station, produce barn, and restaurant, you're talking 548 versus 48 trips in the morning and 270 some or 470 some in the afternoon. A fast food window would be about 125 in the morning and 150 or so in the peak, or 60. So those are substantially increased traffic counts. And in fact, they could have a convenience store and a fast food restaurant. You could have both of those somehow. I don't think that's likely, but my concern, my goal was this does meet our zoning plan. This does meet our land use plan. And it's, to me, I hate to say lesser of different evils, but as far as the use for it, it would seem to be a lot less invasive. It would, in reality, they say 8 a.m., but I think it'd probably be, it's more like daylight hours versus fast food. That could be 24 hours a day. Gas stations, 24 hours a day. And we can't really, being a township, put requirements on businesses being open. That's not something, correct? Can we put limitations on when a business closes?
It's a very difficult thing to enforce.
Yeah. So we don't have, so this is something that could generate, 10 times the traffic, 10 times, 20 times the traffic, and also be open twice as long, and a lot of litter. There's always litter with these fast food restaurants. I was trying to find the decibel levels for these other, like a gas station, a fast food window. I was not able to find them just now, but I would assume they're probably around the same. Not to mention the massive increase in lighting. You would get people driving in the drive-through window. You get noise, traffic, trash. I mean, this unfortunately, this is a prime piece of property in the township. And if it's not developed now, it will be developed in the future. No one is going to let this property sit and rot. If the car wash went out of business, I don't know what the purchase price is here. It's obviously millions. If the car wash goes out of business, it might sit like the hideous giant eagle is currently sitting right now vacant. But I doubt it would, depending on the economy, stay vacant for very long. I would think it would be redeveloped and sold. I mean, who knows? But I just think that this use meets all of our requirements. I don't see how we can ask for changes to be made and mitigations, but I would hate to turn this down and then next thing you know, 6 months or a year from now, them come in and have these very much greater invasive uses that could be proposed. So that's where I stand now. I don't think it would be legal to turn it down either because it does meet the requirements. And if we turn down too many zonings, that creates in effect a taking of the government of property. So,
Do you want to go ahead and make your comment, sir? They've been waiting. Still technically open for public comment.
My name is Mark Borzenko. I live at 170 Lewis Center Road, right next door. The trees that they're talking about, they're all marked. There's flags on every tree. My wife and I went today, and there's like one tree that doesn't have a flag on it. Otherwise, all the trees are marked. That driveway is going to sit 50 feet from my bedroom. There'll be cars sitting in there in the summer with windows down, radios blazing, and the fence that is a woven wooden fence is not going to stop the sound. You can put all the arborvitaes that are this big, 5 foot, I believe you said? 5 foot? Okay. Arborvitae, little stick, narrow, not going to stop the sound. Okay? I can hear blue sky down there on Pullman. So what makes you think that that decibel level next door is going to be quieter when it's that much closer? All the surrounding areas have a little bit of buffer. Why can't I have one? I pay taxes. I've been living there for 32 years. I was there when nothing was there. I want my buffer. I have a right to my buffer. I pay taxes. It may be a nice place and it might fit, but it doesn't need to be there. And we don't need a second car wash. There's how many car washes on 23? How many more do we need? You make up what this place looks like. Do we want a soldier course them? Get real.
but what would you propose that what you would prefer to be built there? A gas station?
There was a gas station, Red's Country Corner. I was there when they built it. It was a fine place. They were nice people.
It could be built as a speedway or a BP or any of those
might
much
be.
more invasive.
Might be.
It will be. Would you prefer a gas? I'm not in favor of the car
You mean
wash.
it will be?
They will develop this property.
Oh, they will be, but it does
it
not
will be.
necessarily have to be a gas station. It could be an office building. Could be anything.
It would never be an office building because it's a very prime piece of property on Route 23. That's why you don't see office buildings because it's very expensive. It needs to generate a lot of income. You'll see office buildings farther off the road.
So what are you going to do for me?
Well, that's why we're trying to mitigate this. We're trying to
some
mitigate
kind of
this.
buffer.
I don't. The property is there. If this develops again, this will absolutely end up being. This driveway will be built to connect to the other property. It will be built in the same place because the county engineer will require it to be built there. And
How much of the front of my yard's going to be taken off for the turn?
I don't.
Because I got a feeling they're going to have to, unless it's
They can't use your property unless they can't just take your property. That would be illegal. They can't just take it without buying it from you, or they wouldn't be allowed to do that. And I'm sorry, I know a car wash is not desirable, but we try to admit that people have a legal right to develop their property, and we try to make it as less intrusive as we possibly can. And after looking into it more, I feel that this would be a less intrusive use. I can't think of one that would be less intrusive that's a commercial development, unfortunately.
So what does that do to my living next to it? My
Well, we
ta-
still have to,
my property
we still have
value
to
is
have a
gonna, my
discussion.
property value is gonna drop like a rock.
We still have to have a discussion as a board and take a vote, so we, you know. Any other public comments? No, hearing none. I don't have a change in my, I know the last meeting, Trustee Knapp and I had different opinions, and Trustee Faust was kind of the vote that would dictate the outcome. I haven't changed my opinion. Doesn't sound like Trustee Knapp has either. My objection is simply to the use. We made a concerted effort to eliminate this use from our overlay for a reason. So as it goes to the general welfare and things of that nature, that's my basis for it. So Trustee Faust, I know that it kind of got vocal after when we started reading the resolution last time. We rescinded that and carried this hearing. So I don't know if what your position is at this time, but the easiest thing to do would just to have you. We're at resolution 365.
Well, I have a question though. What would you prefer to see at that location? That would be.
It's not up to me. It's the overlay gives a lot of options, but I'm entitled to my position as a board member.
Well, I'm just asking.
My position is that
it does meet the requirements, and I mean, if we can't just, if another use comes in that's even more invasive, and we continue to turn these down, like I said, there will most likely be legal action. I mean, I've worked in zoning for over 20 years. I've seen it, so. I mean, I don't like the idea of another car wash, but this to me is at least, I've seen a lot of times when something gets turned down because the neighbors and something much more hideous has been built, much worse than was ever. I've seen it time and again. There's lots of restrictions, yes. And then something comes in, and then the neighbors are even more upset because more lighting, more density, a whole different use.
We've got an application coming up that was the prior application was denied, and a different developer came in, and we'll be hearing that soon. So it's a lot different of a approach than what we had before, and I think the residents are more favorable to it. But I think that's part of the process. I can only make a decision based on what I have and what I believe the options are. So, Trustee Faust, if you want to chime in, I know you've got the same resolution before you, so it's 365, and
do we need to give a reason for denying or approval, or can we just?
It's in the resolution.
We can just outright deny. We could just read it. Okay.
Can I request a 5-minute recess to speak with legal?
Sure.
Thank you.
Did you second that, Ben? So, Mrs. Faust, you made a motion for a 5-minute recess? Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Mrs. Faust? Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-366, return to regular session, or return to the zoning hearing.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Okay, I make motion resolution 22-367 to deny the recommendation of the approval of the zoning commission as to zoning application ZON-22-06 of PJ Land Development LLC for rezoning from planned commercial office district PCD to planned commercial and office district.
Second.
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
No.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. All right, that concludes the zoning hearing. Return to regular session. The first order of business in regular session is to enter into executive session. Make a motion to approve resolution 22-368 to enter into executive session
Second?
for the purpose of considering confidential information related to marketing plans, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, or personal financial statements of an applicant for economic development assistance is directly related to a request for economic development assistance that is to be provided or administered under Revised Code 715, 5709.73-5709.75, and/or Revised Code 715.
Second?
Mrs. Faust?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp? Mr. Grumbles?
Yes, invited to attend the board, fiscal office, legal counsel, zoning director, and Ms. Bonnie. You got it.
All right, thanks.
We're on.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-369 to return to regular session.
Second.
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp? She had to leave, so I won't be calling her name then. I'll report her absent for the rest of the votes. And Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. In the executive session, we discussed applications and economic development assistance issues and topics that are facing the township under the aforementioned revised code. Right? And any other agenda changes, Ms. Bonnie?
I don't have any.
Okay. Any concerns, Ms. Faust, on the consent agenda?
No.
Make a motion to approve resolution 22-370 and 22-371 of the consent agenda.
Second.
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Right. Turn it over to you, Mr. Duff, for the development zoning report.
Okay. So, first item on the zoning hearings and meetings report, we actually just concluded that was the rezoning application ZON-22-06 for PJ Land Development. That is no longer. Next week, we do have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. There is one case on the agenda. There's for a property at 6645 Lake Trail Drive. They are seeking two variances, one for a proposed swimming pool within the setback of 40 feet, and also for a variance to allow for pool fence height less than 5 feet.
Is it typical to get pool fences less than 5 feet?
It's a common variance request. A lot of HOA fence requirements are 4 feet.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of properties have the 4-foot fence already, and then when they put in a swimming pool, they're like, we don't want to build another fence.
Thank you.
We do have a zoning commission meeting Tuesday, November 15th. That will be a continuation of the rezoning hearing, ZON-22-10, the Onyx and East project near Lewis Center and North Roads, known as Aldea. Also on the agenda for that evening, there is the first hearing for ZON-22-11, which is an amendment to a planned industrial district located on North Central Drive to allow building expansion on land that was previously used for soccer recreation purposes.
When did you say that one was?
Also November 15th.
Oh, also 15. And we haven't seen hard copies of that one yet.
No.
Okay, thanks.
And then we have one zoning hearing with the Board of Trustees for the next regularly scheduled trustee meeting Monday, November 21st. That will be rezoning application ZON-22-09, the proposed Aurora Farms development at North Road and Shanahan Road.
And we seen hard copies of that revised submittal?
Not updated.
Okay, but they will send it.
They
so
will,
we
yes.
Can review it. Sorry, I'm old school.
We have any resident feedback on that yet?
Not since the previous zoning commission hearings, no. Nothing additional.
Okay.
But I don't believe, I'm not sure if the meeting notices have gone out yet, so that we may get some.
Keep us abreast on that, please. All right, thank you. You got one more big thing here.
Yes, so we do have two more resolutions for your approval this evening. We did have an internal job posting for the position of senior zoning officer. It is our recommendation to move Mr. Brett Wimkin, our current zoning inspector, up to the senior zoning officer role. Brett has been with the township for roughly 2 years and grown quite a bit in his time here. He is a good person and a great worker, and we think he will do well in the senior zoning officer role.
I'm super thrilled to see this, and I've been nothing but impressed with Brett and his work, his demeanor, his engagement in the township, willingness to contribute above and beyond, and never seen him have a bad day when I'm in. He's always upbeat and positive, and it's the kind of energy and demeanor that we worked hard to establish here, and he contributes to that. So this is perfect, it really is, to see internal development. And you're right, he really has developed. He stepped up with opportunities that have come before him since I've been here. I actually asked, after meeting with him, I think the first few times, I pulled Michelle aside and I said, "Hey, what's going on with that guy? He's pretty sharp, you know." Do you remember that, Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been watching and noticing, and wonderful team member. So I applaud you for going through the process of vetting and recognizing and developing the internal talent, Michelle. And I know you've been here for a shorter duration, but I know you've contributed to that too. The team responding to you coming in is a good sign of your leadership ability and what you bring to the table. So I was thrilled to see that transition happen. I know we had discussed that as a challenge coming in, and you nailed it. So it's nice to see the team work together. Really is. Applaud you both for that. So.
Yes, I'm super excited too.
Okay.
I just say less words.
Nice.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-372, appointment of Brett Wankin to full-time position as Senior Zoning Officer and Establishment of Compensation.
Second.
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-373, authorizing the posting of the job announcement for the zoning inspector position vacancy.
Second.
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
Just.
I know I was long-winded, but I think that's a really important
that's
one.
great. Totally right. Yeah, he's great.
Really important one.
Yes.
Super responsive. He's always very helpful. Every question I have, he answers. Yeah, he's great.
I agree. It's we're fortunate here to be able to not only retain good people, but to develop good people as well.
That's right. You're a
and so if
perfect example of that, huh?
If anyone knows of a zoning inspector, that is a challenging position to look for at this time. So please feel free to pass that.
Might be one in Liberty Township. They could be interested in a new job. No, maybe we can check. Okay, I think everything else, we have very little until we get to the administrative report. And I know we have a recognition policy. I've got a couple of comments on that. But if you want to open that up.
Ms. Croft, if you have anything?
No, we're finishing up the bank reconciliation, so that'll be at the next meeting. I'll send out the reports by the end of the week.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I know, too, there's some concern over a couple of things right now that we'll work through as a team, just in full transparency, since we're at a meeting. I didn't see anything under fiscal, so that's why I went through, but you've provided us with a good bit of detail and background on that. So I trust that there'll be some ongoing discussion before the next meeting, and we'll do what we do here and work through it and find a solution. So
Yeah, we may be ready to present appropriations at the next meeting. We'll have to see.
okay, great.
Okay.
All right, Miss Bonnie?
Yes, thank you. So under administrative report, there are 3 items, and I will have Val chime in too, as she took lead on the first 2. So the first one that was brought up to the board at the last trustee meeting was the employee recognition policy, and it was our understanding that we needed to make a couple edits. So the biggest change is that this recognition policy is only for non-union employees, and that's because we can't, fringe on their contract at this time. So doing this specifically for our non-union staff is what we have here today.
I did ask about that as one of my onboarding things when I first came in. So prior administrator was tasked with looking into that too, and we didn't get there. So I appreciate you bringing this to the team and getting us to a point where we have something in front of us.
The second, if I guess I'll keep going. The second item under the administrative report is obsolete items. Just doing some house cleaning since the board just approved us to order new chairs. And then we are in the works of getting a new trustee table. So just trying to clean out some of this furniture. And the list is there on page 11 of your template if you have any questions on that. And then the last item under administrative report is 2 resolutions regarding the Delaware County Land Bank Board. Part of the county has asked if I myself was interested in it, as there needs to be a township representative, and that individual would represent Orange, Liberty, Genoa, and Concord Township. So there were 2 people of interest. So An email that I recently received is Liberty Township Trustee Brian Newell would serve this remaining year on Land Bank Board, and then they are proposing that myself would serve as a member of the Land Bank Board starting next year and completing that year. So we do need to make an edit to the template, but on the resolution, it would be my term would expire December 31st of 2023.
Edits made on mine, so.
Okay.
Ready to go. Okay. The only change I would request for the employee recognition policy is when you get down to the actual policy itself, when you get to departmental use, I would like the board to provide majority approval and on a department-specific basis. Not just a simple email that says, hey, we're going to do this, right? The purpose of having the board approve this to begin with, number one, the concern I had at the prior policy was that the board really should be engaged in expense management and authorization. And two, they should also be engaged and aware when we are recognizing team members and when departments are going above and beyond and that kind of thing. I don't want it to be something that we keep internal or a department level. It really, is something that the board should celebrate publicly. That I think our residents should be cognizant of as well. How the tax dollars are being invested in talent and resources and updates and performance and all of that thing. They want results. And so this is recognition of that, and I don't think any one of them would object to what is outlined here. It's just a means of sharing that and being transparent. And
I'm sorry, Trustee Crumbles. My question is, would you want something monthly to just kind of list what we plan on doing for the following month, or?
Yeah, however you want to do that. I think that my request would just simply be that the board approves that expense. Incurring expenses is a fundamental requirement of the board, approving those expenses to be incurred. But I think it goes above and beyond that from an engagement standpoint, where it could be as simple as the first meeting of a month or a quarter or whenever it's pertinent. I don't expect this is going to be a daily or weekly thing, but more of, something that if you look out at, key dates, birthdays, things like that. And then, of course, achievements and personal milestones that you guys set goals. I hope as you're setting goals, you achieve those, you celebrate.
Is there a way to at least, so we do have it in here for any type of employee event as far as like a tragic event goes. I wouldn't want to wait 2 weeks for a trustee meeting to be able to do something for if,
So I think so I think that's fine. You can always, if something like that happens, you can always do a retroactive, as we have to do in certain situations when the board can't convene for an expense, right? And I don't think the dollar amount is anything above and beyond.
No.
So the purpose isn't to stymie this or prevent progress. It's more so to give the board an opportunity to recognize we're due. It doesn't have to be every time. I have to sit up here and announce birthdays, but more specifically, I don't want the board to be ignorant or not aware when good things are happening, right? We ought to be talking about that here. And the staff should know that we're aware of their contributions and the team. I want to be. It's a good way to do that. It's a good way to give us a chance to do that and to share with the public.
So how would you modify this?
I'm not going to modify it. And I think me telling you that that's an expectation is sufficient, right? Mm-hmm. What I don't want to see happen is that Lisa calls us in 6 months and is like, oh my gosh, we've got $6,000 in general fund depletion and we have to do appropriations and what have you. So I would just ask that we structure that responsibly, especially given the conversations in the near future, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with that, Lisa?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as just an email, hey, this is our plan for this week,
If you have any concerns, let us know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just a notification, courtesy heads up. But I do want to talk about it at the meetings. Okay. So maybe at the second meeting every month, part of the agenda, we have, key recognition of the month.
I'm thinking like milestones, like annual anniversaries or 5-year, 2-year, whatever.
Yeah, sure. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, exciting.
Okay.
You got it.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-374, adoption of employee milestone and event recognition program.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Okay.
Page 11.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-375, finding certain personal property not needed for public use, obsolete, or unfit for the use for which it was acquired to have no value, and ordering it to be auctioned on Gov Deals or discarded or salvaged.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to reluctantly appoint Brian Newell as a member of the Delaware County Land Bank Board to serve out Mike Schuling's remaining term.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-377, appoint Michelle Bonney as a member of the Delaware County Land Bank Board.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes. And then the last order of business carryover from the onset of the meeting, make a motion to approve Resolution 22-378, authorizing the Township Administrator to negotiate for and approve a fixed rate price for the natural gas aggregation program.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes.
And I will communicate that to you along the way before I sign anything.
Okay. And then as far as the light contest, I think that's,
Val's going to talk to us about that.
what's that?
She was going to present to us about that.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. Turn it over to you, Val, if you want to share that publicly.
Yeah, we were just asking for consensus from the board to have a holiday light contest with the residents. We'll create, they'll submit their applications to Sydney, and then we'll do a map that everybody wants to be
Judged.
judged, and then we're going to open up a application where they can go and vote for who they think is the best house.
Like an online poll type thing.
Yeah.
It'll be a Google form, at my understanding.
Google form, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
that's
this
great.
came from under the Community Volunteer Board. Our event subcommittee met for the first time within the last couple of weeks, and this came out of that group of residents. So
We've got some
we're
really
pretty-
engaged residents with this type of stuff too. We do drive-bys for lights every year, and people go all out. It's awesome.
pretty
This
exciting.
is great.
And there'll be awards and, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we're gonna make some sign and say, we're gonna have different categories. We're gonna have People's Choice Award, Griswold winner, a Kid's Choice winner, and a Trustee's Choice.
That's awesome.
And then we plan on announcing the winners at the first meeting in January.
It's great. Good work on this.
Yeah, we're excited.
We'll just have a sign that says, winner of the Christmas or the
Yeah.
holiday.
It's fantastic. Good, simple, fun. You have my consent.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have.
Right? Make a motion to approve Resolution 22-379, meeting adjourned.
Second?
Mrs. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Grumbles?
Yes, meeting adjourned.